Hello.
G'day, Jess. How are you getting on this evening?
Good, good. How are you?
Yeah, good, thanks. Hey, you're anchoring the show for us tonight,
I
which is pretty
am, I
awesome.
am.
Off the bench,
Yeah, it's
that's
great.
exciting.
It's great to be here for episode 51. So, CP Media Wednesday night, number 51. Yeah, we've got a great show tonight. Super, super excited. We're going to be welcoming Anton Cooper, Emma Dyke, and Grace Prendergast to the
Yeah,
show.
absolutely. So just like pretty excited to have these guys on the show. This is only last week they were in Tokyo. They were
Yep.
doing the events, giving it absolutely everything. We're cheering them on the TV, and now we get a chance to talk to them to actually suss out what their view of the Olympics was from their seat, from pushing the boundaries and getting a real feel for what it was like for them competing. So really appreciate Anton, Emma, and Grace taking the time to talk to us this evening.
Absolutely. I'm super excited to be here. And yeah, and we're also brought to you tonight by Evo Cycles. So that's
Yeah, that's
also
right.
great to have this for this episode.
Yeah, so they've got a prize pack they're going to give out. So to win that, basically you just need to comment on the show as we go. So they're live and they pop up as we talk. So if you want to ask a question of Anton or Emma or Grace, just type it in as we go, and we'll draw that next week when we catch up.
Absolutely. And
Yeah,
speaking
nice.
of the Olympics, we're on day 12, isn't it? Day 12, I think it is.
Something like that. How's your endurance going in the Olympics, Jess? Are you still fizzing about it, or you're like, oh gosh,
yes,
can I get to the end?
I'm fizzing. And look, I'm not going to bring up the whole Australia versus New Zealand thing in the medal tally. I'll just leave that to the side for tonight. And
that was a consideration, and I didn't actually talk about that pre-show. What are we doing here? Bringing you on board right in the middle of
I thought I'd
Olympics.
just slide that right in there under the table.
Yeah.
No, but I'm absolutely still fizzing and just loving watching it every day. And it's just so admirable to see everyone competing and putting it all in, and I had to give it to New Zealand for claiming the women's rugby sevens gold. That was incredible to watch.
Yeah, no, it was good. Just so deserved, and just great athletes and great ambassadors for the sport and for New Zealand and what it means to perform at the top level. It's pretty awesome, wasn't it?
Yeah. What's been your highlight for the day? Anything
that's
particular?
a good question. There's lots actually. I have had to shuffle work around a bit. I know when Anton was racing, I was like, I was going to catch up with you, but I think we'll have to do that tomorrow. So there's been lots. It's been awesome. Just before we get into the show, just to summarize a couple of things that have been going on in the Team CP world, we've had through July we had our peak bagging competition. Which was basically about getting out and bagging a named peak in your area and sharing that with us. We had lots of different photos and images and people getting out and about and doing adventures with their family, their dog, themselves up to the top of the hill. And we had this Sun2 watch that we're going to give away as part of that. And we're going to give that away to Scotty Smith. He bagged 16 peaks through the course of July. That's one every couple of days or so, all over the place. He got very busy, which was pretty awesome. So he had a really good July, and well done, Scotty, for winning that and mixing it up and sharing your adventure with the rest of us. So so that's fantastic. Nice. We've also got another challenge which is gonna be the last one of kind of the winter before lots of events and things start off for us.
Yeah,
and that's our Olympic challenge.
Which is pretty
cool. There we go.
Yeah, so there we go. Look out for that, guys.
The Team CP Olympics. So what you need to do for that is win something. So what we're using is Strava. You need to win a Strava crown by the time the Olympics finish. Strava crowns are basically a time section using Strava, and you need to be the fastest across that section. Now, if you're not the fastest runner biker in the world, that's okay, because you just need to get a little bit more creative with where you're putting those. It could be up the driveway possibly if that's what you need to do, but go out there, have a crack, share your photo, and we've got some awesome prizes to give away as part of that as well. So that's finishing next Sunday, and we're going to draw that prize next week.
Awesome. And I hear we've got a CP event coming up. We've got the spring brunch ride on Sunday 29th of August.
Yes, that's right. So that's a really good opportunity just to get together and meet a whole bunch of people. So that's in Christchurch. We're going to run it in Taitat. We're going to do a group ride and also bring the kids along, put them on their bikes, and come and join in and just meet a whole bunch of people. So if you're out of town and coming past that weekend, just sing out and come and join us on Sunday morning. a bit of exercise, catching up with others, and there'll definitely be cake and potentially custard square involved at the end as well.
Custard squares, yeah, that sounds amazing. Great. Excellent. And just a reminder, like you said, keep an eye, if you're on Facebook and watching, keep those comments coming in if you've got any questions for the guys, and you'll go into the draw to win an Evo Cycles prize pack.
Yeah, good job. So just introducing each of our guests. So we're going to kick off with Anton Cooper in a moment. So he lined up for the Olympic start line in some really awesome form to tackle the Tokyo course, gave it absolutely everything and definitely gave us heaps to cheer on. So we're going to have a chat to him about his performance and how he went and what his Olympics experience was about. We're going to follow up with Emma Dyke, New Zealand Olympic Silver Medalist as part of the women's rowing 8. We're pretty keen to hear about her experience and how she went on as part of that fantastic team who won the silver medal. And we're going to wrap up with Grace Prendergast, who will be checking to see if she's wearing her gold and silver medal around her neck, and find out about her preparation, what it means to succeed on the world's largest stage. So you're pretty excited about that.
Brilliant. Okay, what a great lineup. Let's bring Anton into the show.
Good job. How you doing, Anton?
Good. Yourself?
Yeah, good. Thanks. Hey, thanks for joining us. I have to say that that it was just flick a message to Anton to see what he's up to, and you replied to say, yeah, actually, I've got some time. So it's pretty exciting that you have the opportunity to join us. Where in the world are you at the moment?
In Germany at the moment. Yeah, back at my girlfriend's place here.
One. And how are you going right now? How is tell us about where the mindset is at sort of now back in Germany after it must have been a bit of a whirlwind of a Tokyo trip compared to maybe what the Olympics normally is. How do you feel about it all upon reflection?
It was a crazy time. Getting to the start line was maybe the hardest part of the whole thing.
Yeah.
There's just a huge amount of hoops to jump through, a lot of stress involved, especially actually being overseas in Europe and trying to deal with getting tests done and in the right formats and filling these forms out and this and that in a foreign language is always tough as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, just kind of once we landed on the ground in Tokyo, it was all pretty smooth sailing. Actually, I had a good run through. We're actually staying in a separate satellite village for mountain bike and track cycling. We weren't in the main village because our venue was quite a bit further away.
Yeah.
So it was kind of quiet. It was quite chill. We had a lot of space to kind of relax. We're staying in like an older resort, like a golf, tennis kind of resort. It was pretty dated, but it was still good enough. And but it felt a little bit more, I guess, like a World Cup in the sense, or World Championships, because you're seeing the same nations and riders that you normally would, and not so much of the other athletes being in the main village. So it was still unique. It still felt like Olympics, but maybe not the same experience that it would have been if I was in the main village. But yeah, back on German soil now after the race, and I guess it's been a little hard trying to get the head back in the game initially, just because you have a week of, I had the first few days back here, complete rest, and then a few days just kind of riding a couple of hours a day on the road bike, nice and easy. And now back into the swing of things. But I had a hard session, kind of a key session yesterday, and a few 15-minute efforts to kind of get me back going, and the legs felt a bit dead. But I think more than anything, it was good just to have a hard session under the belt, and for the head as well to say, back in the game, because we've got world champs at the end of the month, which will come. Yeah,
good. Just nice to refocus and get into that. That's awesome. We're just going to take a jump back for a bit, just to give a bit more sort of overview of where you like in terms of your lead into the Olympics. So you missed out on selection for the London Olympics because you're too young by months. I think you're 18 and you're supposed to be 19 based on UCI rules.
I had to be turning 19 in the year of Olympics instead of turning 18. Anyway, I was 18. I missed out by 4 months age. I mean, at that stage, it wasn't. I wasn't really expecting to go, but at the start of the year, I went overseas, and suddenly I was winning, World Cups and won junior under-19 world champs, and I was the fastest rider in New Zealand. So that was more like a idea that was suddenly put to me by Cycling New Zealand, like, we're going to try get a dispensation for you to go because, you know, we have a spot qualified and you're a fastest rider, but they didn't end up taking me. They would have, but the UCI
weren't
said
able to.
The rule's the rule.
Yeah. And then 4 years later in Rio, you were hit by chronic fatigue, and that nailed your opportunity that time.
Yeah, chronic fatigue and a lot of upper respiratory infections. Kind of that was I had my adenoids in the back of your nasal passage there were constantly inflamed, so I had surgery to have those removed. Yeah, and I guess that time off the break, and that was probably what was leading to the chronic fatigue a bit as well. But that certainly helped get me back on the right path. But it was pretty shit timing as well, because that was obviously an Olympic Games year, and so when the Olympic Games were on, I was recovering from surgery. So pretty disappointing, pretty hard to watch that one, especially after not having the chance to go in London, and then, you know, it's another 4-year wait, which turned out to be 5 years. But
5, yeah. So what did it mean to you to actually finally make it to Tokyo? And there was, as you say, there was a fair bit of red tape and hoops to jump through to actually get there. Yeah,
I know. It was mean a lot more than it would have if I'd just, you know, if I'd gone to Rio or London. It wouldn't have meant the same to me as making the team here. And you know, we have one spot. There's a nation. You're going up against world champions, World Cup winners, World Cup podium getters to get that spot. So to come away with it is pretty special, first of all. But to actually see the games go ahead was another relief. If it hadn't happened in 2020, I was thinking, like, man, will I ever get the chance to go here? Because, you know, you feel like you're missing out every time, and you look ahead to 2024, and you never know. It's a dangerous sport as well. You can crash and break your collarbone, your arm, whatever. And then suddenly you start looking further down the track, and you're maybe not at your peak, and there's a lot of things you feel like you miss these opportunities. So I was glad it happened. I was glad they persisted with putting the games on, and that I got a chance to go. And yeah, it was a big relief, I would say, just to and a sense of pride for persisting with it, persisting through all those hard times to make it there. Yeah.
Awesome. Good on you. So how was the build up to the Olympics? Your performances in the World Cup circuit went from sort of the top 10 through to podium places, and then you actually won a round of the World Cup in was it late June, I think?
Well, I didn't win one this year. I won a Swiss Cup, which was like the weekend after. But still, kind of World Cup level field. But I finished third in Austria. Yeah, man, when was that? Yeah, probably it wasn't that long ago. Might have been July. Yeah, July sometime. So I had really strong results start to the year. I was I think right up the pointy end the whole season. And I guess for me, in the previous years, I was capable of pulling, you know, results out of the bag every now and then. But to do it consistently is a completely different story. And if you want to do well, if you want to go into a race and feel like you can do well at something like Olympics, you need to have consistency under your belt. Otherwise, you know, it's going to be a complete lottery. You could, you know, get a medal, or you could bomb out and be not in the top 30. So it really, I think for me to suddenly have, I don't know exactly why. There's a few reasons why it all changed, but having that consistency was a big motivating factor that for me, I could actually do well, go to the games and actually get a good result.
Nice. And be confident that I can back my ability, that I can compete day in, day out with these guys.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you're not going to nail it 100% every time, but if you're doing it most of the time, or 90% of the time, that's very important. And I felt like that this year that was starting to come into place. And I was turning up on the start line confident that I was going to have a good result, not going, will I, won't I? How am I going to feel after the first lap? You know, I was just confident that, I've done the right thing. I've done same process as last time. It's going to work out, and it has been. So long may that continue. There's still a lot of races left in the season, but so far, I feel like that's working out pretty well.
Yeah, good job. That's awesome. So a big part of any performance is being fresh and ready to go. How do you manage that fine line between the planned sessions that you've got from your coach and then actually also listening to your body and knowing that I need to push it or pull it back? How do you manage that for yourself, performing at that really fine line of I need to nail this?
Yeah, I mean, freshness is a big thing that I focused on this year. And I think that's one of the key reasons, first of all, why I've found a bit more consistency.
Yeah.
And is more listening to yourself. You know, your coach can set your training, and this is ideal scenario. This is what I want you to do.
Yeah.
If you're recovered, if you're feeling fresh, you know, and there's a lot of factors that you as an athlete also need to consider and say, is this realistic for me to go out and do this session? Am I recovered well enough to do it? Because if you're not, you're just digging yourself a hole. And if you are recovered well, then it's good to push and you kind of add another level to your ability and your training. So listening to the body's been key. And that's something with experience now. I've been racing for 10 years as a pro. And I've had seasons or big chunks of season written out because I haven't listened to myself and my body as well as I should. So you learn, sometimes slowly, sometimes, but it's hindsight at times, and you look back and you have to learn from those errors and mistakes, and otherwise, if you don't learn, you keep making you get stuck in your ways. So, I feel like I've learned from that, and coming into races fresh. I've done my hard training, but when it comes race day, I'm recovered and in a good physical and mental state to go out and give my best. And that's probably a big part of getting the most out of your body, especially at an event like the Olympic Games.
And as you talked about, is experience, but also confidence to know that actually I can back off here and I'm still going to be okay, rather than when you're younger.
I mean, I had I'm looking less than 2 weeks out from the games where I just felt I was a big part of it probably was the stress of everything going on, and suddenly you're not sleeping as well, and whatever, you got to travel an hour each way to get this test done at this accredited lab to then come back and do your training and a couple of sessions. It all just starts to stack up, and you notice you're getting run down and tired, and I've got a bit of a sore throat. And it's Olympics, you want to do the key sessions, but I had to realize that, okay, no, I've got to call it here and back off. And I ended up having 2 or 3 days off the bike completely, which no one wants to have a week and a half out from Olympics.
No.
You have to back yourself and say, this is the best this is the best thing for me to do in this situation. And if I keep down this path, I'm either going to race like shit at Olympics and be burnt out, or I can actually be really fresh. And you have to look in that state, like I've done the work. I'm going to be really fresh. I'm going to be able to empty the body because I'm really fresh. And it worked out in that sense. So sometimes you just got to back yourself and back your ability and not dwell too much on, I missed that session. Better to take a step back and be fresher, slightly undertrained, let's say, but fresher than overtrained in a deep rut.
Yeah, I think that's a good learning for everybody, because it's so easy, as you say, like I'll just push on, I'll just do this because I need to do this because I need to perform really well. But as you say, like it actually makes you worse at the end of the day. Jumping into the actual race itself, it looked like an absolutely brutal course, and it was a really exciting race to watch. As I mentioned before, I had to ditch a few other appointments that I had to watch your race that I didn't realize what time it was on. And you're really in the mix for the medals for the entire event. Talk us through your race day. How were those climbs? What was the heat like for you? How did it actually go, sort of being in amongst it?
Yeah, the heat was talked about being a big factor, but I suppose, the week that we were there early, we had I would say 30 to 35 degree range, but probably more 33, 34 most days. Yeah. Your Garmin reads 40, but it always does, just with the sun and the road heat. But it was pretty hot. But race day was probably the coolest day that I was there. It was around 30 degrees, but a bit more overcast. So I typically race well in the heat anyway, so it wasn't something I was too faced with. And I didn't notice it much in the race. We had a lot of cooling strategies in place. Warming up was in an air-conditioned room. We had ice vests. We had, ice wrist wraps and ice cubes and stuff that would slowly melt in your pockets and this and that. So we had a lot of strategies. Every half a lap, you're taking cold splash water on. Your bottle was icy cold. So everything was thought out, and we managed the heat really well. I started from the second row, and I quickly made my way up to the top 5, I would say. And I spent the first lap somewhere in, I don't know, I'm going to say around 6th or 7th, maybe 8th. And then worked my way forward as the couple of laps went on, and until I was really in that lead group of, I think there was probably 4 of us for the first half of the race. And there was, every time you look back, you see places 5, 6, 7, 8, like just behind. So you back off, you go do a lap 10 seconds slow, you're going to lose 5 spots. And it's, while you may be in position 3, it doesn't mean you're suddenly the 3rd best rider in the race. Like it's
right. And were you on the rivet early on, or how in control were you?
I was pretty in control early on. I never felt I was on the rivet, particularly at any point in the race until late. And I think it might have been, we had a start loop and then 7 full laps, and it might have been on the 5th full lap. I think that Tom Pidcock, he put in an attack, and it's funny because when you race with Tom, he's a bit hard to read. How he races, because I was getting quite frustrated at some point because I felt like he was struggling and he was letting wheels go, and he was felt like his head wasn't in it. And I felt like as soon as I pass him, that's him. He's gone. He's out the race. So, and he'd just kind of left the wheel go a bit and screwed up this corner right in front of me. And I had to unclip, and I said to myself, the next chance you get, you're going to pass him and
get rid of him.
And get rid of him. And then it's me, Nino, and Matthias, top 3. And so he, sure enough, closes the gap to them, and with me on the wheel, the very next climb, he attacks and passes both of them and disappears into the distance. So obviously, well, he wasn't bluffing, I don't think. It's just the way he races sometimes. It's really hard to read. So he obviously wasn't feeling bad at all. And he was feeling great, and he was able to go off, which then meant Matthias, who was world number 1, he was the next strongest, and he was able to go not quite with him, but a tiny gap. And then I had to make the decision. Like I could have followed the attack, but I couldn't have followed it at the pace I knew those guys could have kept on at. So. If I'd followed it, I risked blowing up completely and dropping right back. So I had to make the decision just to hold back and ride this pace, and maybe they're going to come if we can work well. Me, Nino, Victor, the other French guy. If we can work well together, we're still in the hunt for the gold. We didn't do that. We didn't work well together at all. And that let a few others come back into the race for the bronze medal. And on the last lap, we had 4 of us in contention for the bronze. And I ended up, I ended up 6. I just didn't have anything left in the tank by that point. I was just felt, it wasn't like the legs really hurt. It was just an empty kind of feeling. You just pushed hard for an hour and a half in 30-degree heat and dust and savage steep climbs. It was just nothing left in the tank. So I was a bit frustrated that I didn't get 5th because I should have got 5th. But Victor, he'd raced a test event with Nino 2 years ago, and Nino had won in the sprint up the hill. And there's a very steep climb, and then you turn right onto the start-finish straight, and from there it's probably 100 meters to the finish line. And it's like it probably looks flat on camera, but it's a slightly uphill the whole way, the whole start-finish straight. But the climb up to the finish straight is very, very steep. So I came in, and I'd kind of come in hot and I caught him, and I tried to go around him, but he closed the door on me. And so then I stalled a bit, and then he sprinted to the line, and I had like a little bit too much to close. So I was kind of closing.
Yeah.
And I just got the timing a little bit wrong at the back, and I lost out on fifth by about a tyre width. So that was a little bit frustrating, but wouldn't have been as frustrating if it was the sprint for bronze or the sprint for gold.
yeah, that's right. There's lots of comments coming through just in terms of how proud. If there's heaps of people that watched you and just proud of your effort. You could see that you were putting it all in. There was absolutely nothing left, and that's the key thing, I guess, at the end of the day, that you've got to be super proud of is just that. And is that sort of how you feel at the moment?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I'm super proud of the effort I put in, of course, and the fact that I was in there and I was a medal chance, I was a chance for the win for the first, 2/3 of the race, and I genuinely felt that. And the last, I was a chance of a very good chance of bronze medal up until, I'm going to say, 3 minutes, three minutes to go in the race. So of an hour and a half race. So I was in the mix for my first Olympics. Against the very, very best and the most talented stacked mountain bike field there's ever been.
That's right.
I'm pretty happy with that.
Yeah. Oh, totally. There's one question here that's come in from George Paul, and he says, "What did you think when a race favourite to medal, Van der Poel, crashed out on that rock drop on that second lap? Is there any doubt goes into your mind, or are you like, all right, he's done. That's right. I'm just riding my race. What goes through your mind then?"
Yeah, it was probably only 2 riders in front of me that happened. So I saw him kind of tumbling and then stand up, and he had a pretty grimace look on his face as he was like rolling and standing up. So I thought that was probably him done. You never know. I mean, people come back into the race, and sometimes after a crash, it fires you up a lot and makes you pretty angry and motivated. So you never know, but I thought that was probably him done. To be honest, he wasn't on my favorite list. It was, for me, it was going to be between Tom and Matthias. And with Matthew was, you never know what performance he can produce. He can, you never write him off, but he wasn't, in my opinion, the favorite.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah, great. And I mean, you've talked about how hard it was. There's the heat, the dust. You're out there for a long time. What's your go-to for rest and relaxation? What brings you that zen?
Normally at the races, you don't get a huge amount of time at an Olympic event, but World Cups, I'll chill out, watch some TV, some Netflix, listen to some music. My girlfriend always wants to talk to me, so I'm going to keep her happy and give her a call.
So listening, then you're good at listening.
Yeah. So I don't know.
That's great.
I haven't thought about that too much, but there's always something to relax to and chill out.
Nice.
Yeah, great.
And Anton, just to finish up, so just where are you off to now? What's the sort of plan for the rest of the season? When are you due back in New Zealand? And finally, is the Olympics in your sights for 2024, 3 years' time? Or is it too early to ask that question? So just give us a bit of a where you're off to next, and then what's the big picture plan, if you've thought of
Yeah.
it?
So next up is World Champs in Italy, in Val di Sole, which is probably another decent track for me. I typically race well there, so I want to have a really strong performance there.
Yep.
And then after that, we've got 2 final World Cups of the year, one in Lenzerheide in Switzerland, and then 2 weeks after that in Snowshoe in the USA.
Yep.
If the Americans let us in. And then maybe Marathon World Champs later in the year, because as I can't fly home till I think the 13th of October, or arrival 15th of October is my MIQ spot. So might as well do something, might as well race. Com Games next year, that'll come around quick. But Olympics 2024, that's certainly the big goal in the next 3 years. Sport tends to work off Olympic cycles, and so as soon as one finishes, you turn attention to the next one. And for me, I'll be turning 30 years old. Very close to around the games, and for a mountain biker, that's pretty much prime age. So I want to make the most of the opportunity. I'll target the gold, and hopefully we can come away with something shiny and make history on the mountain bike in New Zealand. But every Olympics, I would love to also be there in the 2028 Olympics in LA, and at that stage, I'm looking to 2028 Olympics as certainly an Olympics I want to go to, and after that, I'm not really sure what the future will hold. But those next 2 Olympic cycles are certainly on the radar.
Awesome. Hey, Anton, thank you so much for your time. Thanks for sharing. Thanks for your honesty, and thanks for doing us all proud last week. And all the best for the rest of the season. Look forward to cheering you on.
Yeah.
Cheers. Thanks a lot. Thank you.
See ya.
Take care. We'll catch up soon.
Awesome.
Nice. How good, Jess?
That was brilliant.
Does that make you want to get on your mountain bike?
It does. It does, actually. I'm a bit scared of the old mountain biking game, but that was a little bit inspirational. I reckon I could get on there and give it a go.
Yeah, nice. It does actually also want to ask me to ask about how Australia got on the mountain bike, but I'm not sure I saw them there.
I don't know. I'll
Moving right along. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So Emma Dyke, she's been sitting patiently in her MIQ hotel, waiting for us to come on board. So Emma's part of the yeah, that's right, the Olympic silver medal in crew for women's 8. Is she back there, Jess?
Here she is.
Hello.
How you doing, Emma?
Good, thank you. How are you guys?
Yeah, really good. Hey, thanks for joining us. It's so good to have you on the for taking your time out of your busy schedule to join us.
You're more than welcome. I'm excited.
Yeah, good stuff. So where are you at the moment? You're in Christchurch, I think, aren't you?
Yes, so I'm at Crown Plaza in Christchurch.
Yeah, and this is day 2 or day 3 of lockdown?
I think it's day 3, but it's technically day 2 because they count the first day as day 0. So day 2 with, I think, 11 days to go.
And you're still on a bit of a high? Where are you at right now?
Yeah, I honestly almost want to say it still hasn't sunken in. I'm not sure if it's because I guess normally we'd come home. Well, I haven't ever won an Olympic medal, but normally you'd come home and there'd be all this hype back in New Zealand, which we haven't had yet. So
yes,
I guess right now it's kind of like mellow. I'm not thinking about it too much, but I think as soon as I get out, it's going to everything's going to be heightened again because you're going to see family, friends, and I guess there'll be some sort of media stuff here and there. So yeah, I think it'll hit me again later.
Yeah, got a bit of a staged approach to that, isn't it?
Yeah, which is almost nice because I feel like this is a nice rest after all like the emotional, physical hype of the Olympics and the lead up to it. It's a bit of like rest now, and then we can do all the fun stuff after.
Yeah, nice. In terms of what was going on over there, were you aware of the hype that was sort of happening in New Zealand? Did you have much sort of feel for what was going on there?
To be honest, I did get quite a lot of Snapchats from family friends in the cloud because they were obviously hosting that big Olympic thing there, and even our New Zealand Instagram page, like the Olympic Instagram page, was posting quite a lot about it, and it was it was pretty overwhelming to see the type of support for each sport, and even rowing, like huge turnout day in day out for our morning of racing each day. Yeah, it was definitely, I guess I was shocked at how big of a turnout it was, and how like it did feel like they were there even though they weren't. But it was nice that like even though our families all couldn't come over to watch us, they all had each other there to support us with.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. There was definitely a few tears, and great to sort of cheer you guys on. That's
so
awesome.
Nice.
So Emma, just let's step back a moment. Tell us about your background. How did you get into rowing? How did you get to where you are now?
Well, I'm from a small like farming town called Mayfield. But my parents sent me to a boarding school in Timaru called Craig Darcison, and they had a rowing program there. but I didn't row for my first year at school. I just did like the classic netball, bit of basketball, and then I had 2 friends from Mayfield who also went to Craighead with me, and they rowed. And then in my second year of school, they're like, you have to come down and try it. So I did, and then pretty much that day I never left, and I've been rowing ever since.
Yeah. And what is it for rowing for you that really that meant that you never left?
I guess initially, to be honest, I was probably too scared to quit. But after, because I was quite a homebody, so being at boarding school and rowing, which took up a lot of weekends, meaning I couldn't go home, it was quite tough. But once I started to enjoy boarding school more and got into rowing more, I definitely loved it. Like I loved all like the team aspect of it, so fun. And obviously going away to regattas and racing, and I guess you train so hard. That then getting to race and like be around all these other school people, meet other kids from other schools was pretty cool. It was pretty exciting. And then being from the South Island and getting to fly up north to Lake Karapiro for Mighty Cup was pretty cool. Like I felt like I was almost going overseas, which I wasn't. But as a kid who hadn't really traveled too much, it was very exciting. Yeah.
So you got into it based on like effectively on the social element, really. Like you do it because it's fun and hanging out with others. How is that now for you? If you sort of look at the fun and enjoyment factor, and obviously there's the success and the improvement that you see in the ultimate performance, but fundamentally, like is it still there? Is it still that social element? Is it still being part of that team that is it for you, or what is it now?
Honestly, it is. I guess the only hard thing with rowing is that it is up north, and I'm from down south, and predominantly all my like friends that I've grown up since I was young are all down south. So I guess some of them I've lost contact with, as you do, like anyone as you get older. Like I've still got contact with some of them, but I've made this incredible group of friends from rowing that I like live up in Cambridge with, and like those will be people I'll be friends with for lifetime. So there's still that aspect. Like I get to train with them every day, twice a day, sometimes 3 times a day. So it's pretty cool. And then again, like the travel side of it, like going overseas and seeing not even the North Island, but I'm seeing different countries, and I'm racing against different athletes from different countries. So it's pretty cool to make these, like, I guess, friendships, connections with people from all over the world. Like that's a pretty cool feeling, knowing that if I traveled wherever in the world, I probably have some form of rowing connection there.
Yeah, that's fantastic. So you went to the Rio Olympics as well, where the team finished 4th. How does Tokyo compare to your Rio experience? Because obviously that's with COVID, it's quite different as well. How would you compare the two?
I guess for me, like we've been at it for a long time. Obviously not the exact same crew, but some of us, like same bones of the crew, have been like there since 2015. I think 2016 was was pretty early in our like 8 development. And I guess we had a bit of a rocky lead up. Like we didn't go as well at the World Cups before compared to now. Not that we had World Cups this year, but and then like our heats and finals, and I don't know what it was, whether they just didn't handle the pressure or didn't click as well as a group. But obviously, like the last 3 years since we became world champions in 2019, we're just a really tight knit group of girls, and like our coach Gary, he's just like very good at running the program. And even us doubling up, it just works very well because we have like a bigger group. Like we have 10 of us that are all part of the 8 essentially, like with Phoebe and Good who fill the spots for Karen, Grace, and they're out. So it's just, I don't know what it is, but we definitely, I guess, I don't know. It's just the group as a whole works a lot better at the moment, and even having good success in 2019, and then obviously it was hard in 2020 with no rowing at all. Pretty much we're all in our hometowns for lockdown, but even during that period, like in lockdown, we'd all FaceTime or Zoom like pretty much every day, do some training together or just catch up. And like that as a whole was pretty cool to see how close our group was and how we were so there for each other through all these tough times. And I think that definitely helped with how we went this year, just because we truly did have each other's backs and that like, I don't know, strong bond with each other, and that definitely helps in this sort of situation.
Yeah, awesome. A question for you. How do you cope in those moments, just those quiet moments, you're in your own head just before the start line, knowing what you're about to put yourself through? That's what you train for. And especially in the time when actually you really know what it means and this is what I'm here for. Like, it's I don't know, maybe it's harder sitting watching at home, but it's blimmin' nerve-wracking just as the boat's kind of being lined up and you're kind of sussing out, getting ready to go. How do you cope with that? What's going through your head at that stage?
Yeah, I can definitely say first it is almost a lot harder to watch racing instead of being there.
Okay,
but
good.
yeah, look, it's pretty, like the night before I'm definitely nervous thinking about it. And then obviously I hope I have a good sleep, but I had a good sleep this time, so that was good. And then like I'm not too nervous thinking about like warming up, getting down to the course, but it's definitely once I'm on the water and like doing a small warm up before you go to the start line, I'm pretty nervous, but you're still thinking about like each stroke and the process, so it's not too bad. Sitting in the starting blocks when you're not physically warming up or anything, you're just literally sitting there. It is pretty nerve-wracking, but I'm just trying to think about the process, like what I need to do, like coming out of the start clean, and like I guess thinking about I want to sit back and go out long and make clean blade work, all of that. So I'm just going through that in my mind while I'm sitting there, and then obviously I know it's about to hurt, so that's also hard. But like again, I'm just reminding myself that I've trained for pretty much 2-3 years for this moment. So like this pain of around 6 minutes, 6-minute 05 race is nothing compared to the 30k rows we've done back at home, like day in, day out. So like can't be that hard. But it is pretty hard to like control the nerves, but it's just reminding yourself what you've done to get to this moment and that this is literally what we train for. Like this should be exciting.
Yeah, nice. So you draw confidence from that training, the preparation you've done, and then also looking forward to the challenge of it as well. And I guess it's also, as you mentioned, focusing on the process of just that first stroke, and that's all you need to do because that's the only thing you can control.
Yeah, exactly. Like literally, as soon as the starter buzzer goes off, all the nerves go away, and you're just doing what you do best and what we know. Yeah.
Nice.
But I guess for us for the final, like we had the heat. And it was a good race, but it wasn't exactly how we planned it. Like we came out of the start a bit slower than what we would normally have liked to. So it was that sort of thing, like going to the finals, okay, we knew we had to do this. It's just almost thinking about coming out of the start fast. So we always have something to think about.
Yeah, nice. How was the heat to perform in, and what did you do to prepare for that?
So back in New Zealand for I'm going to say the 2 weeks before and then 4 weeks before that of a 2-week block. So we did 2 2-week blocks of heat training. So that involved like heat ergs, like heat sessions on the rowing machine. So we do an hour, I'm going to say twice a week, in a erg, roughly like 30 degrees heat and maybe like 70% humidity or maybe less. I'm not quite sure. So that definitely set us up. But obviously after that, we'd still go out into the New Zealand air and it was freezing cold. But we did have a pre-camp in Tokyo at a lake called Lake Biwa. So it was pretty warm. It was exact same temperature as Tokyo. So I think we had maybe 10 or 12 days there to get used to the heat. But I actually think our heat training we did in New Zealand set us up so well because I think for us as a women's 8 crew, we actually handled it really well. We're just obviously hydrating, trying to keep hydrated. So we did heaps of like hydration tests to make sure we were hydrated. And then we'll just get given like, I guess, salty hydration tabs and that to try and keep those levels down or up, down. And then, once we got over to the village before racing, we'd obviously warm up at the village. And then we'd do a pre-cooling also at the village. So we sit in an ice bath for 10 minutes to try and get our core temperature down. Yeah. And then we'd travel to the course and we'd do an erg warm up. And then we'd put ice vests on and like ice towels and like ice things around our wrists, just everywhere to try and keep the core temperature as cold as possible. And then get on the water. And I feel like, that really did help because I didn't really mind the heat too bad. I thought it was actually all good. But it was obviously as soon as you cross the line and stop, it hits you. But while we're rowing, you've got the breeze because we're outdoors, which is very lucky. It sounds like the athletics was horrendous. I think they were saying like 40 degrees there. So we were very lucky to have that sea breeze.
Yeah, nice. Good. So well prepared and organised, and you had your systems, and obviously you'd practiced that around in terms of your build up, so you knew how you were going to feel. Talk us through your race. How did it unfold from your seat in the boat? So how far, whereabouts are you sitting? Is it like?
So I'm in 2 seats, so it's pretty much I'm furthest. No, so I'm number 2. Well, I guess it depends on your front. I would call it the back.
If we're going,
so
if
you're crossing the line, I cross the line second.
Yes.
Or if I'm in the starting blocks, I'm furthest away from the person holding the boat.
Yeah.
So yeah, for me, obviously, I can see a lot of the race. So once we had a pretty good start. Like we came out with the rest of the field. Like I said, being in my seat, I can see everything pretty much if I look at it. Try not to.
Yeah.
And then we were pretty good. I think we were all in a pretty good line until maybe coming into the second 500, and then Canada had about 3 seats in us, and pretty much from there on out, that's how it stayed. Like every time we'd, I guess, do a move or do an attack on them, they'd just like do one straight back at us. So it's pretty much just stayed like that the whole way. And then at one point, I'm going to say around the 500 to go, they had like 3 or 4 seats on us, I think. And then we slowly started to chew back as it came into that like last 100 meters, but we just literally didn't have enough meters left before we crossed the line. So that was kind of unfortunate that we let them get away in that first 500, but like we had probably one of our best races, so that's all you can ask for. And like we said, that if Canada can beat us at our best race, that hats off to them, because that's good race from them.
Yeah. Do you take a sneaky glance on the boat to the side of you, or do you just try and concentrate on your own stroke and leave that to the coxswain? What's the rules? What do you do?
Well, I guess I should say that I should leave it to the coxswain because that's his job. But being further back in the boat, I can see quite easily in my peripherals where I am. And I'm not gonna lie, I did take a few sneaky glances in the last 500.
Yeah, come on.
Just because I'm like, even though he was saying it to me, I just needed to see. But I didn't look too much. I just probably looked maybe once or twice in the last 500. Grace is going to be dying if I say this. But yeah, like our coxswain Caleb, he's very, very good, and we knew exactly where we were throughout the race, and like he'd only tell us if we needed to know. And he's obviously calling moves and that sort of stuff, technique calls as we go through the race, which keeps us pretty occupied.
Yeah, exactly. And you're going deep at that stage, aren't you? And the look to the side, hey, that's just going to make you go a bit deeper, I would have thought anyway.
Yeah, like we always say, like looking out at your opponent's going to give them I guess a bit of a leadway because you're getting distracted from what you're doing. But I'm not like fully looking around, just like glancing out. But yeah, at that point, like we're still going pretty full steam. We're pretty in the hurt locker there. But it didn't have that long to go.
Yeah, nice one. How does it feel to be back in New Zealand now?
It's good. It's actually my parents and my little sister were up in Christchurch today, so they waved out in my window, which is cool to see them. It's kind of weird knowing they're just there, but I can't go and give them a big hug or anything. But yeah, it's nice to be in home soil, even though we can't leave just yet. But it's cold. I can feel the cold through the window.
Yeah. Are you getting some good care packages come through?
Yes. We've pretty much had to say no to food because obviously in here we haven't actually been outside for exercise in my blue band yet, but we have a salt bike, which is kind of like a watt bike, but not. So that's all we managed to get, and our outdoor walking area is really small, so I won't be doing too much cardio. So I've said no food, please. Otherwise, that's going to have to be thrown out because I cannot be eating here. Because we get good, like the food here is really good. Lunch, dinner, and breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and some snacks if you want. But I've just said no to snacks, and I've got some food obviously from care packages, but I said no more from now on.
Yeah, cool. So what's next? What's coming up? Are you looking forward to the Commonwealth Games or Paris in 2024, or is it more just relaxing and spending time with family?
So rowing isn't actually at the Com Games anymore. So I don't think it's been at the Com Games for, I'm going to say, like quite a few years.
Okay.
So just Olympics in Paris in a few years' time. But at the moment, I'm actually taking the coming year or season off, just bit of a mental break, refresher, because I've been here for quite some time, and I think I just need a break to see whether I miss rowing or if I don't. And just when I come back, I'll be full ready to go. But I was planning on going to Sydney, but it's currently obviously in a tight lockdown. So I'm looking into going to the UK, but I'm not sure yet. That was obviously last minute thoughts. So I need to do some life admin over the next 2 days to look into that. But yeah, I'll be going somewhere, hopefully Australia, but maybe the UK from soon until July next year. And then I'll come back and get into training if I return.
Yeah, great. Yeah, cool.
Awesome,
Yeah.
It's been fantastic to follow and watch you. I have to say, I have been sort of tracking your progress pretty closely because my wife actually works with your sister at the hospital. And then I just found out today that my mum actually used to work with your mum in Ashburton Hospital as well. So that's pretty crazy.
Oh my God, connections.
Yeah, have it that. So, and then actually grew up just down the road, went to Lagmore School when you were at Mayfield.
Yeah.
Well, probably a number of years
so
before
funny.
that. But it's a small world. That's awesome. Yeah, nice work. So, hey, great to actually meet you, and all the best with that life admin over the next 11 days that you've got to do that.
Thank you.
Yes, and yes, let's have a look at that medal as well, please.
Woo!
And then it's
Awesome.
a little bit, and then it says this little. I don't know if you can see that.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah, so good.
Oh,
Yeah, so
congratulations again.
Very heavy. Thank you.
That's your weights that you're going to be doing.
Yeah.
That's actually a good idea.
Yeah. So good, Emma. Hey, congratulations. Great to share. Thanks for taking the time to share with us and learn more about your performance and all the best for getting through the quarantine and catching up with family again.
Thank you.
Cool.
Cheers.
Take care.
You guys. Bye-bye.
So good.
Yeah. Oh, that was great. That is a pretty impressive looking medal. That was, yeah.
Yeah, so good. And in terms of learnings from that, Jess, what were your sort of takeaways?
Just consistency in the training and the effort and just the years of dedication to this sport. It pays off and it's just phenomenal to see.
Yeah, no, so good, isn't it? Grace Prendergast is sitting in the background. Shall we get her on? Gold and silver medal. Let's double check to see if they're hanging around her neck, shall we?
Oh, I don't have them hanging, but I can, they're too heavy to have them hanging for too long. I'll put them on though.
Yeah, look at that.
Congratulations.
Sorry.
So good.
They're actually like almost awkwardly heavy.
So
very,
number.
very, very exciting.
Yeah,
that's
good stuff.
Brilliant. They look good on you.
Yeah, thank you. It was an accessory now.
I'm sure there's a rule, isn't there, about wearing medals? Like you worked hard to earn those. So what's the rule within the New Zealand rowing squad about when you're allowed to wear them, and maybe that's your time to take it off now? Is there a thing there?
We don't have a set rule. I guess you can wear it as much as you want, but eventually people might be like, time to take it off. You've got to part with your medals. But honestly, I think it would almost be the weight of them that would cause you to take it off, from my limited experience over the last few days.
Yeah, that's right. Sort of in your jammies, sort of get up in the morning. It's probably time to put it on, isn't it? Just to remind yourself.
Oh yeah,
of what you've
definitely.
done. Yeah. Do you pinch yourself, like, in terms of how it all went? Like, it was. How does it feel now, reflecting back on your performance in it's only last week?
Yeah, I think it's still, I just don't even know if it really has still sunk in yet. I think just the nature of how we've had to come home and go into MIQ and all of that probably delays the process of it sinking in. But it's I'm slowly coming to terms with it, and I think just thinking back to like watching people get Olympic medals in the past and how I've seen that, it kind of puts it in perspective of how special this really is, and eventually I think I'll understand that.
Yeah. Sometimes when you're in the buzz of it, you actually don't realize what you've actually just done. And
no,
like talking to Emma just before as well, like it's actually you're here, you're back in New Zealand, and you get a feel for things, but it's going to come again, isn't it, in a couple of weeks' time when you actually get to catch up with friends and family properly.
Yeah, I think so. I think obviously like a lot of our friends and family have already managed to celebrate all together up at the Cloud,
Yeah.
and it looks like they
Yes.
had a lot of fun. But yeah, we had very minimal celebrations just with how everything runs over there. So
Mm.
I think once we get out in a few 2 weeks time, we'll have to go through all the celebrations again, which I don't think anyone will complain about.
It's just another excuse, which is fantastic, isn't it?
Yeah.
You race the 8 as well as the pier. What's the difference about racing those two different boats? Is there a difference? Like, obviously one's got somebody telling you what to do in tactics, whereas the other one you don't. Talk us through that.
Yeah, they are very different boats. Like I wouldn't even be able to really compare the races.
Yeah.
Like I guess you start off just with the pure time difference. Like a woman's pier is about a minute slower than a woman's 8, so that's quite a long time to be racing for.
Yeah.
And just like I guess in an 8 I make up 1/9 of the boat, whereas in a pair I'm 50% of the boat. So just the nature of your roles and what you have to do in each boat is quite different. And even I guess the style of rowing is quite different. Like a pair, you can be a lot more patient. You've got a lot more time in a race. So I guess you've got a bigger chunk in the middle to be able to do things. Whereas in 8, it's sort of from the first stroke to the last stroke, it's all on, and you can't get too far out of the race, otherwise there's just no coming back because it's too quick.
Yeah. Talking to me about a communication in the pier. Do you guys have a set race plan? Do you change it as you go? How much communication goes on in there?
Well, I guess my role in the pier is to talk. I sit in bow seats, so I sit behind Kerry and I can see her. And I guess I can see visually what's going on in a race. But then again, like we are also racing, so like what I can sort of spit out speaking wise is pretty limited, but I can definitely get a bit out. But I think we do probably a lot of our practice and training, so we both tend to be on the same page naturally, and I probably just have to say a word and she'll know what that means because we've done it in training so many times. And like Kerry and I have rowed together since 2014 was our first time in a pair racing internationally. So I think naturally our brains go to the same place at the same time, which makes my job a lot easier.
That's right. You could probably almost feel the change and feel the things that you need to do without really almost having to speak to it.
Yeah, definitely. And like we know our race plan before the race. So I think like I never have to say the whole sentence. Like I can say a little cue word and she'll know what that means because we've already discussed it and trial and error through lots of different races, figured out what works for us and what doesn't work for us.
Yeah. So you had a pretty tough schedule racing 2 boats. Could you remind us of that schedule? How many races did you have to do in the regatta over what days?
So in the end, we were pretty lucky. We only had to do 5 races altogether. So we did 3 in the pair and 2 in the 8, because if you won your heat in the 8, that means you made straight through to the final. And we managed to win that by about, I think it was about 0.3 of a second.
It was pretty close.
So it was really close, and that meant we could cut out a whole another race, which actually in the end was a massive game changer. Just with there was about 2 days of the rowing where it was cancelled because they thought a typhoon was coming through. So that obviously changed what days we were racing on. And then when they put out the new schedule, it turned out that our women's pair semi-final was scheduled for 10 minutes before our women's 8 repechage. So I wouldn't even think about what we would have had to do, but we physically couldn't have done both of those races. So I think getting through from the heat was a very lucky 0.3 of a second.
And that speaking about recovery, which is my next question, that is a bit of a game changer, isn't it? To be able to perform at that pinnacle, that there's so finer margins in it between the boats, and that's what we saw. So talk to us about your recovery protocol. How do you make sure that you're still able to perform on that final day racing in the 8?
Yeah, and it is like it's a long week, so you do have to make sure you're recovering really well. Otherwise, you might perform well at the start of the week, but not when it really matters. And especially in Tokyo, we knew that recovery was going to be key just because it was so hot, and that adds like a whole nother element to to. Sorry, can you still hear me?
Yes, yeah, you're fine. To that
Okay,
recovery.
cool. So I think
Yeah.
I think my earpods are going to go flat, so I might have to that soon. I've been listening to the podcast.
That's
sorry.
right. We'll swap to the computer if we need to. Yeah.
Yeah. And so the recovery is just so much more important, but it's pretty intense. Like, I think as soon as we get out of the boat, we've got like the ice towels, the ice vests, straight to warming down in like as cooler areas we can find, and then back to the village, and it still goes. You get your massage, you have your ice bath. So there's a lot that goes into it.
Yes, and as we talked to Emma before, it's practice, isn't it? You know what you need to do. It's just go through the process, and the support staff are there to help you have the things you need when you need it to then be recovering. So how did you feel? How fresh did you feel you were when you lined up for the eights after winning? The gold medal was the day before, I think, wasn't it?
Yeah. So I guess the 2 days that were cancelled in the rowing did condense our schedule a little bit more. Like, we were meant to have our peer semi-final and then a day off and then the 2 finals in consecutive days, but it ended up being like 3 days in a row. But like all our training in New Zealand, we'd practice doing 5 races over about 3 days. So like, I definitely lined up for the 8 feeling really fresh and ready. It was obviously a really big day before, and I think the unusual thing about it is probably the amount of things you have to do after an Olympic final, whereas normally we can just go on and recover, but we had to, do your medal ceremony, your interviews and all of that. So that probably was a little bit of a hurdle to get over, but we're confident with how we recovered, and I still lined up for the 8, very ready to go.
Yeah, that's right. 100%. And just that standing round. But as you say, like, that's what you train for. It's I'm sure you trained and it was harder, so it was actually kind of easier. So and it doesn't take much to get up for a day like that, does it?
No, not at all. And like, we had 6 other fresh girls that were so excited, and you just sort of get caught up in all their hype and all their excitement. So like, you physically couldn't get sucked into it. So like, I was still just as fresh and just as ready to go for the 8 as I was for the pair in the end.
Yeah, nice. Talk us through your pairs race. How did it unfold from your seat in the boat?
I think going into it was a little bit unknown. Normally, I would say the pair as an event, we could kind of predict who was going to be out, who was going to be the main competition, but just with the way the racing had been earlier in the week, we just sort of knew that everyone could sort of be up there pushing for a medal. So we knew it was going to be close, and that's how it played out. But I think we felt, for how close it was, we felt oddly confident and secure in our position, which I think just came down to the practice racing we'd done all season. Like, we'd done many races against doubles and other crews where it's literally a second between us the whole way. So we weren't panicked that we didn't have a big margin. Instead, it felt more comfortable for us than I imagine it did visually watching. But like, we had our race plan and we just worked to execute that, and in the end it worked really well, and we knew there'd be fast crews out of the start and fast finishing crews, so we just had to sort of race our own race. Otherwise you'd get caught out sort of trying to race someone else's race plan.
Yeah. Do you change the race plan? Have you? You must have done that sometime. Like, you've got your race plan, but there's a point that you need to go, right, no, actually, we need to go lift it now because it's getting away from us.
Yeah, I think we always know that we have the freedom in our race to be like, actually, we've got to go now, because you don't want to let someone have too much. And I think Kerry and I are quite adaptable in that, which works really well. But I think as a whole, we do have sort of a pattern we race to, but have the flexibility to change if need be on the spot.
Yeah, because ultimately it's your time trial at the end of the day, isn't it? How do you go the best across that time, that distance?
Yeah, definitely is. And
sorry, what were you going to say?
I was going to say, and we've probably been caught out in the past where we've tried to change our race to suit other crews as well, and learned that, as you say, like, it is a time trial. It's going to get from A to B, and we know how we do that the fastest, and just have to be confident with that, really.
Back that process and that race plan. From the outside, your performances look pretty flawless, but do you, as you reflect on that regatta, and that's probably part of, you might have already done that, or part of sort of sitting in your room, is there any things that you're still looking to improve? Because that's a big motivator to kind of want to continue to see if I can do better.
Yeah, I guess rowing's a sport that you can always find an area to improve, like probably most sports. I think it's hard to say that you've ever had the perfect race. But I think going into our Olympic final, like Kerry and I both said, we felt weirdly confident, and not confident that we were going to go in and win, but just confident that we were going to go in and have a really good race because of the training we'd done. So I think that was a feeling that was quite unusual. Like, we thought we'd both be like outrageously nervous and just, sort of beside ourselves. But I think we'd enjoyed the last 5 years so much and put so much into those 5 years that it set it up really well. And I guess like, I don't know if you're ever going to have a perfect performance, but I think the way we approached it, like, I was really stoked with it. And I guess at the moment, I'm not sure exactly what I would want to change going forward. But I think if I really sat down and decided I want to go through to Paris, I could definitely pinpoint some areas where I could improve.
Yeah, that's right. But it's also that confidence in your training and actually, I deserve to be here. So let's go and challenge myself and have a crack at this because this is what I've trained for. Yeah,
exactly. And that's what we sort of decided as a crew. Like, we just obviously have had no international racing for the past 2 years. So we just decided we want to train in a way that if someone's faster than the standard we've set for ourselves, then good on them and they deserve to beat us. Yeah.
So you won the World Champs in 2019 and have heaps of awesome results in your career. And you've gone through this before. How do you manage to come down after a massive peak like you've just had and are kind of going through now? How do you have you got a plan? Is that a thing? Or is it just like, oh gosh, I'm just going to do day by day? Like, is there a pattern that follows? Like, does it kind of take a couple of weeks to unwind, or actually, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I guess like we have a World Champs every year, but I think the come down after an Olympics is quite different because, I mean, as a sport, we probably think big picture 4-year Olympic cycles. So like after a World Champs, I know that I'm going to get a few weeks off, but I know I'll eventually get back into rowing and I'm still going. Whereas after an Olympic Games, it's everything's up in the air. You've got to make the call if you want to do another cycle, if you want to have a year off, or if you're completely done. So I think I'll definitely have to take some time to sort of let that sink in and sort of, I think, just like plan what I want to do in the future. And if I have the motivation to do another cycle, I think I'll know eventually after some time off. And like at the moment, I think it's just important. I've made some plans that I want to do on my break. And I think that's the advice we've been given by a lot of people that have stopped rowing or after an Olympics, is just make sure you have little things to work to, whether it's, a holiday with friends or you want to enter some event to train for or something like that. But I think you've got to be quite cautious of the come down after an event like the Olympics.
Yeah, just to have another focus, and sounds like you've got those things that are not rowing right now to focus on.
Yeah, which is nice.
So speaking of not rowing, what's another exercise that you like to do that's not rowing? Is there something that you love to do?
I enjoy cycling. Like not competitively, but like we do quite a bit of cycling for rowing training as well. And I've definitely learned to love that as a cross training method. And like when we're injured, like I've spent a few months, a whole summer on a bike one year. So I think you learn to love that. But yeah, I enjoy cycling. It's probably my most preferred cross training method.
Nice.
Oh, nice. Oh, that's great.
Awesome. Grace. To finish up the show, we've got a quick 5 questions that we're going to fire at you, and you're not allowed to think too much about them, and then you're going to sort of have a quick answering. Jess, do you want to lead us off?
Absolutely. What's your favourite Olympic sport to watch?
I really enjoy watching the hockey. I find that quite interesting. Yeah.
Oh, great.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Good stuff. I'm going to ask favourite ice cream flavour.
Oh, I'm quite plain. I do love I'm actually really am quite plain. Like I do love a good like vanilla bean.
Yeah,
that is not exciting at all.
I've asked that quite a bit, and you'll be surprised. I'm surprised on how much that comes up. So, okay.
Okay, good.
Yep,
I'm pleased.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Eating out or home cooked meal?
Oh, I do. I love a meal out, but I do have a lot of friends that are very good cooks. So like they also cook very great food. But yeah, I think I love the experience of eating out.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. Nice. What's your favorite training snack?
Oh, I'm gonna say this is probably like a pre-training snack, but like peanut butter and banana on toast. That's my go-to.
Yeah, good. Can't go wrong with that.
Yeah.
Do you have any favorite pre-race meals that are kind of like you're superstitious, I'm going to eat this?
I think once again I'd go back to my other one, like a peanut butter and banana on toast, like every day. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, that's awesome, Grace. I'm just going to quickly just jump to this and just show you this one. This is a picture of my daughter Bella at Villa. That like the whole school were watching your race on live on TV, which is pretty awesome. Like again, did you get a feel for that how much support and excitement that was had around your performances?
Not probably until afterwards, because I think we probably shut out all the media and stuff before the racing. But honestly, seeing some of the videos, and I saw the video of a whole of Villa students, and I was like, I got a bit overwhelmed. I was like, oh, thank God it went all right. But it's honestly been mind blowing, and I think I still don't understand. But like the amount of messages of support and just everyone that has just been so nice, and like watching like the Villa girls and watching the people at the crowd and hearing from your primary school, and just it's honestly incredible. And I think it still hasn't quite sunk in.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. Well, super massive congratulations. Thanks for your time. Thanks for sharing with us.
Thank you.
And absolutely loved the way that you represented New Zealand and how well you performed, and enjoy soaking up that glory, because you've definitely earned it.
Yeah.
Great. Thank you so much. And thank you for having me.
Awesome.
No
Well
worries.
done. Take care. Thanks, Grace.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Nice work, Jess.
Brilliant.
How good.
That was amazing. I just love the way she kind of explained how they stuck to the race plan and the execution, and how that can really benefit, when all these other crazy things are going around, you want to look and see what's going on, just sticking to your race plan and how well it can go.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. And also just across the course of the show, in terms of what Anton was saying about just the confidence not to train today. Like he had 2 or 3 days completely off, which is awesome to hear, isn't it? Actually just trusting the process and trusting your listening to your body and how fresh you are. So key to actually perform at the top level.
Absolutely. Yeah, that was great.
Yeah, absolutely. So just to wrap things up, our peak bagging, well done to Scotty Smith, who's won this awesome watch. Our annual spring brunch ride is happening at the end of August. So let us know if you're looking to come along to that. That'll be a fantastic day out. Big thanks to Evo Cycles. Thanks for all those people that have put comments and bits and pieces as we've gone as well. That's absolutely fantastic. And thanks, Jess, for anchoring the show, and also not saying too much around Australia. I didn't think
all right.
very well, did I?
I'll save it for the offline chat.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely
Thanks
awesome. And a massive thanks to Grace, Emma, and Anton for their time and sharing their insights to the Olympics. It's pretty awesome that we get the opportunity to talk to these fantastic people and get a feel for where they're at and what they've done.
Absolutely. Super fans.
Good job. Well done, Jess. Thanks for your time.
Cool.
Until next week.
Talk to you later. Bye.